Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of my show. I think I'm just going to call it Cathy Reisenwitz for now. I'm joined again by Lauren Rumpler, aka Objectivist Girl, and I just want to apologize. I am at a fee seminar right now. I'll be speaking later today, so that's what's with the background noise. But Lauren is, like I said, Objectivist Girl. She's got some awesome shows, and she's also, on the strength of our talk last time, which we're continuing this time, going to be doing a panel on the topic. Lauren, thank you so much for coming, and tell us about your panel.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Cathy. I always enjoy talking to you. So my panel will be at PorcFest, and they asked me based on the last show that we did. They thought my view on polyamory was really positive, and they thought that I would be a good panelist for it. And I think it's on Thursday at 3, I believe. That sounds right. But you can definitely link to my Objectivist Girl page to learn more about the panel and everything, and where I'll be at PorcFest.
Awesome. Have you been to PorcFest before?
No, this is my very first one, so I'm really excited.
That's awesome. I haven't been. I really want to go. I'll have to go next year. They're going to record the panel?
Hopefully. If not, I'll have somebody record it for me. So.
Perfect. Okay, so just a little bit to talk about the news. I think we've got a new Miss USA, and especially because we're talking about issues of sex and sexuality, I wanted to get your views on pageants. I know some feminists are upset about objectification. Other people, I think Julie Borowski was talking about how getting upset about pageants is a feminist first world problem. Lauren, your take.
So personally, I don't think that pageants are really an issue. I think that people have the right to choose whether they get involved. It's not forced. I mean, nobody says you have to be in a pageant. So these women are choosing to objectify themselves, if you want to look at it that way. And I think that as long as anything is voluntary and consensual, the market should allow for anything to exist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very, very important to make the distinction between agency and someone taking away your agency, and that women absolutely should be free to make the choice to participate in pageants. And then also I think something that a lot of women, feminists and non-feminists alike, just people get wrong about objectification is this idea that the object is at fault. So a woman literally can't objectify herself, because what is objectification? It's removing someone's agency in your own mind. So when you objectify someone, you take them from an agent to an object. So it's kind of demonstrably untrue that someone could objectify themselves. The objectification happens in the objectifier's mind. So things like what a woman is wearing, the idea that that makes her an object is kind of insane. But so yeah, to go on, let's continue our conversation from last time. You had made a really, really interesting point about polyamory and the liberty community, and how the ideas behind liberty kind of lend themselves to a poly orientation or lifestyle. Can you kind of, summarize what you were saying last time, and then we can pick up the conversation from there?
Yeah, so what I was saying last time is that polyamory is a mutually beneficial relationship between two or more people, and you can be polyamorous but be temporarily monogamous or even permanently monogamous because of just simple either situation or you've just agreed to close off. So just because you can love multiple people doesn't mean that you necessarily do. So it's not you don't force yourself to feel that way about several people. That's the way that you internally feel. Through logic and reason, obviously, I would advocate. But the point is that this is a consensual relationship in which people agree on a contract and they stick to that contract. And as long as you stick to that contract, you are being faithful. So a lot of people define faithfulness as being faithful to one person, and faithfulness is actually just faithfulness to that contract that you've made with that other person. And I think I also stated that I find polyamorous relationships to be more beneficial because I would prefer that someone choose to be with me each day instead of feel forced and entrapped in a relationship.
Absolutely. So I think the contract aspect is definitely more interesting. But first I want to touch on the kind of orientation question that you sort of alluded to. I wrote a piece, I think last year when I was in a polyamorous relationship called Is Polyamory an Orientation? And I think that I kind of came to the conclusion that it was, that some people are very fulfilled and happy and prefer a monogamous setup for their relationships. Other people have a hard time with monogamy. They find it very difficult to restrict their affections to one person, and so they have a preference. And I think that orientations are kind of similar, and I think that orientations are also similar in that they're a preference for a certain kind of arrangement, and that they are obviously you can be in an arrangement, and you can sometimes be happy depending on how strong your preference is in an arrangement that's not your ideal, while still understanding what your ideal arrangement is. But this brings up questions about what makes an orientation, right? Is it a question of is an orientation something that you can't help, that you have no control over, or is it a preference, or is it something else? How would you answer the question, is polyamory an orientation?
Well, in objectivist ethics, love is defined as a selfish desire for one's values. And I find that it's very difficult to find all of your values mirrored in one other person. And so logically, I find that objectivists would lean more towards polyamory just because it would fulfill their values more completely. I also find that that while it can be an orientation, while someone may feel that they are polyamorous and feel the desire to love many people, it can also be a logical, rational choice as well. So monogamous people can also feel that their relationship, rationally they can feel that their relationship would be better off open, even if they decide that they only want to see each other, and it just makes the relationship more positive and less restrictive and less restrictive. So.
I think the values point is a really, really interesting one, and one I think we should focus on when we talk about it, because there are competing values. I didn't think critically about monogamy until I became poly, to be honest with you. And what I've realized is that for some people, monogamy is a value in and of itself. They find great value in the feeling of security and specialness that monogamy offers them. That value competes with the values you talked about getting all of your needs met. And so that's kind of the fundamental tension. And so the orientation can be described almost as which set of values is more important to you. And then there's also the cost-benefit analysis, where I may find it very valuable to have all my needs met, but find the work involved in getting those needs met, which obviously requires meeting a lot of needs, and just from a practical perspective, a lot of time. And then there's the overcoming our social programming to be jealous. So there's just a lot of work involved in reaping the benefits of polyamory and getting all those needs met.
I agree with you. Mainly, as an objectivist, I find I hold my partners to a much higher standard, and perfection is something that is desirable to me. And I find when I have multiple partners, I am able to get closer to that place of perfection. And there's less pressure on the person, because I want people to pursue their own values and not feel that they need to my values or my standards as a person. Instead, you can just appreciate that person for who they are and gain value from that relationship, and then gain different values from different relationships. It's much like friendships. We have multiple friendships that we gain multiple different experiences with, and we do different things with different people. And that's the same way with relationships, only we don't confine it and say that you can only have sex with one person and you can only have intimate relationships, emotional relationships with one person, because ultimately, when it boils down to it, we are polyamorous human beings. We do love our friends. We just confine ourselves with intimacy, and I think that creates a backwards and repressive culture that's not conducive to anything. And I find that repression and jealousy are two really huge issues in our culture that we don't address. And I find jealousy and repression to be completely and entirely irrational. I want to do an entire piece on it, but yeah.
I think you should. I think you're right. So, and this kind of occurred to me, but nobody gets upset when they find that their best friend went to the movies with another friend.
Right.
But if we find that our partner has sex with another person, it's this whole big deal because we've made sex a special category. So on the one hand, we can describe that positively as sex being special or meaningful, but on the negative end, and it's the same phenomenon, just described differently, we've stigmatized and we've repressed and we feel a lot of shame around and fear around sex. And so sex-positive feminism is something that I ascribe to, and what it is it's critically thinking about that special category we put sex into, and it's saying if you as an individual want to ascribe meaning or stigma to sex for your own purposes, okay, do that. But the idea that we all need to view sex the same way and that we all need to operate under a system in which sex is stigmatized is not worth the cost. And we see the cost in things like default monogamy, where we have an understanding of fidelity as to a person as opposed to a contract. So let's go back to that topic, because I think that's so fascinating and a really beautiful description of polyamory, especially in the liberty community, as being faithful to a promise as opposed to a person. What kind of led you to that?
So The Ethical Slut is a great book. And I'd recommend it to literally everybody, even if you have no desire to be polyamorous. It's great to understand what it means to be polyamorous and understand people around you. I'm always saying, as an objectivist, knowledge is not for all men, but for those who seek it, so keep seeking. You should always seek out knowledge with an active mind. I don't say open or closed, because open allows everything in and closed never lets anything in, but active takes everything in and filters it. And so I would recommend The Ethical Slut. That's where I learned about faithfulness to a contract versus a person. And that's just the thing, is that it makes so much sense. It makes so much logical sense that if two people want that kind of relationship, then why would they not be able to pursue whatever relationship they want? We should live in a free market of love. And we should live in a world where love is defined by a couple. And love should never be put up to the state. That's why I'm against state marriages. That's why I generally don't like marriages, because I find that people change over time and want different relationships and different dynamics with their partners, or may not even want to be with their partners anymore, which is, of course, highly unfortunate. The divorce rate is way too high. And I find that as you grow as a person, you have different needs and desires. And with polyamory, you can stay with the person that you loved and you grew with, but also develop another relationship with somebody that better meets your new needs and your new desires. And that's why that faithfulness being a promise, it comes into play so seriously in this, because when you sit down with your partner and you say, I still love you and I still care for you, but I have different needs and different desires, and I know you do too, and I don't feel like I can fulfill those needs for you, and I want you to have them met, that's real love. Real love is when you want the person that you're with to be truly happy. I mean, objectivist love believes in selfish, rational self-interest, and when you're rationally self-interested, you care about the person that you're with, and you care about yourself and your own needs.
And The question I'm going to ask could be its own hour-long topic, but something that immediately comes to mind as an objection. I think everybody's kind of with us on all these points, but I have to understand that marriage has traditionally existed as a contract, not for the benefit of the people entering into it, but for the benefit of the offspring that result. And so obviously we can see that there's a tension between the selfish aspect of contract-based love as we're describing it, and the idea of self-sacrifice and commitment for the purposes of a steady, stable home for children. Do you think that these kinds of contracts are appropriate for households with children?
So I think that any environment can be good for a child as long as you have a good family surrounding it. And family can be defined in so many different ways. And I think polyamorous groups define it in a very different way than you know, the nuclear family. So in a polyamorous group, the child's family would be anyone involved in that circle and anyone that wanted to be involved in that child's life. And I find that even when you're in a marriage, the parent can, one of the parents or even both of the parents can neglect the child. And so a polyamorous relationship doesn't cause the child to get neglected, but the whole character flaw of the people involved is what causes a child to get neglected. So it's not this relationship that causes it, it is the flaw in the people and the misguided action in having the child, because you should never have a child when you're not prepared to take care of it. It's a logical thing. And so people that say that polyamorous relationships are not conducive to having children are misguided in the understanding of what it is that causes families to not be involved in a child's life.
Okay, I think that makes sense. Tell us a little bit about your journey to polyamory, what kind of sparked the idea in your head, some of the kind of challenges that you've had, either from partners or from your community. As far as coming out, there's a lot of stigma around sex in our community. I know that you know, when I came out as poly, there was a little bit of a backlash where people are just really uncomfortable with the idea of eschewing monogamy. So tell us a little bit about that. So tell us about first your initial struggles, and then anything that you're kind of currently dealing with. I know for me, polyamory, the biggest struggle for a long time was just scheduling. Then a little bit later, you know, the struggles were different, but tell us about that.
Well, I find the struggles are exactly what I was talking about before, that repression and that jealousy. And so it's been ingrained in us as a society so deeply that we have to feel jealous when our partner is with someone else, that it can be difficult to get over. So one of the things that a very important friend taught me was the idea of water and gold. So Cathy, what do you need more? What's more important, water or gold?
Water.
Water, right. Okay, but think about it this way. What if there's a surplus of water, like endless amounts of water? Wouldn't the gold be more important in that situation?
It would be more valuable, but yeah.
Right. So the thing is that in a drought, the water's more important. The idea is that neither are really objectively more important. And I say that worrying that my audience is doubting objective reality, but it's not. Not a doubt of objective reality. It's simply a personal view of what your values are. So all values should be considered based on your long-term goal and benefit, which makes them technically subjective. But reality is still objective. That's why I don't like that it's called objectivism, because it skews the idea. It's more egoism than objectivism, but I digress. The point is that water and gold is a great analogy for polyamory. water and gold make you understand that at times one partner is exactly what you need, and at other times another partner is exactly what you need. And so it never lessens the value of the other person. It's simply that right now I need water, or right now I need gold. And this has helped me the most with the struggle of understanding polyamory and being able to cope with any jealousy that I feel, because even if I'm not in a polyamorous relationship, I still want to get over the idea of jealousy. I feel like any relationship that is really truly successful doesn't have that element of jealousy, because you want what is best for that person. So it doesn't really matter whether I'm polyamorous or monogamous. I don't want to feel any of that kind of jealousy. So I guess you could call me polyamorous, but it would be missing the point. The point is simply that I don't ever want to tell my partner what to do, and I don't ever want my partner to not want to be with me, but be with me anyway.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like jealousy is like the stigma around sex, in that no one is saying that there's absolutely no benefit to stigmatizing sex, to seeing it as special, to putting it in a separate category. There are benefits to it, just like there are benefits to jealousy. They're both kind of ways to go about getting what you want. If what you want is a feeling of security, one way to do that is to jealously guard what you have. A better way, however, is to woo the person that you're with, to constantly work to be the person that they value, to be the gold or the water, to be what they need when they need it. It's just an alternate way of looking at protecting what you want. It's kind of like doing something out of love or hate. You can be a libertarian because you hate the state. You know, you can be in a relationship and be true to someone because of jealousy, or you can be a libertarian because you are in love with the market, and you can be a good partner and maintain that specialness of relationship because you're providing value.
I heard 2 points that I want to address that you just made. The idea of being a jealous partner to meet needs, or in a monogamous setting, or and the other idea was, I believe it was, I'm forgetting the other one, but that one is the one I really want to focus on, is the idea that, oh yes, being something that the person needs in order to meet their needs. And I don't agree with that. I actually believe that you should feel secure enough in yourself that you should need a partner. I don't believe in needing a partner. I don't think that anyone should ever need anyone else. We should be entities in and of ourselves. That should be our lifelong goal, is to be able to be completely by ourselves and be in a wonderful, happy place. Partners simply add to your happiness. They don't create your happiness. And also, acting selfishly to keep a partner also goes straight into that. The idea that you would need anyone at all is, to put it simply, repulsive in objectivist ethics. I don't feel that I need anyone. I'm with my partners, and I find my partners enjoy being with me because of the fact that I don't have needs, I have desires. And they're very different, very distinctive. I don't ever need my partners. I simply want them around because they create my overall arching happiness in times where I'm feeling like I want more, but I never need them on a basic level.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I actually said recently, if you need someone to be happy, you never will be. I guess I should have articulated that better. What I was actually referring to are emotional needs. And even then, I think ideally, obviously, the idea that someone could make us happy, I think is wrong. I think we're ultimately responsible for how we feel. And so I think that the idea of emotional needs is a little bit wrong as well. We should be able to meet all of our emotional needs ourselves. So I guess what I'm talking about are emotional desires, and that we can be good partners by seeking to understand and help our partners meet their emotional desires, as opposed to we can remain in relationships by jealously guarding our partners.
Right. So one of the things that you just mentioned was emotions and emotional desires versus emotional needs. I agree with that entirely. One of the other things I want to urge people to do is to not just feel things, but feel things because they're based in reality. So before you decide what it is that your emotional desires are, your emotional needs are, and attempt to fulfill them, you need to question whether those emotions are actually based in reality. So I shouldn't feel jealous when my partner wants to be with someone else. I should question why it is that they are still with me and think about the fact that they are still with me. And I find that to be based in reality, you have to consider, I find that jealousy is never based in reality, because to be jealous would mean that you are lacking something that someone else has.
That actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it reminds me of another kind of tie into libertarianism, where I feel like, or I think that libertarians have an idea that we should evaluate proposals based on their actual results. And so something that I like to use in relationships as I kind of evaluate my feelings is this feeling, is fostering it as opposed to challenging it, going to get me further to my goals? And that's just a really helpful thing, to where we're not victims of our emotions, we're not swept away by them, we can evaluate them on a cost-benefit basis and kind of go from there, which I feel like is kind of like a results-based, rational way to look at things, which I think is helpful. Okay, so we only have 3 minutes left. This has been a really fantastic conversation. Lauren, I want to give you the last 3 minutes to tell people where they can find you and to remind them about your panel.
So you guys should definitely come to PorcFest. That's a given. But before PorcFest, I'm going to start with before PorcFest. You should come to the Atlas Summit. The Atlas Summit is June 19th through the 22nd, and it'll allow you to learn about objectivist ethics. So if you like the things that I'm saying right now, and you like the idea of being completely and totally independent in and of yourself, and completely and totally capable of taking care of your own happiness, you should check out Objectivism. It's a great philosophy. It makes you very connected with yourself. And it's brought a lot of joy to my life. So attend the Atlas Summit, June 19th through the 22nd. If you need any information, just contact me at Objectivist Girl on Facebook. And you should also like Objectivist Girl on Facebook, because I have a great time doing it. And then PorcFest is following that, the 22nd through the 29th. And I will be doing a talk called Why All Anarchists Should Love Objectivism, which should be really interesting and probably cause almost a riot. But I think I make a few really good points, and you should come check it out. That'll be Friday at 3 p.m. And then there will also be the panel on Thursday, I believe at 3 p.m., but I'll put more information on the Objectivist Girl page. Also, you should check out my show, True Objective. You can like that on Facebook to get more information. And, of course, my new show, Hearts and Minds, with Shire Dude, who's a really good friend of mine. I think you guys will really like him. He's very funny. Very cool project where we teach people to communicate with one another. And I believe that's all of what I'm doing right now, but I'm sure I'm missing so. Oh, and I'll be on Free Talk Live on Thursday, so you guys should check me out there.
Congratulations, that's awesome. And just to remind everybody, this show, and I believe all the ones you mentioned are, except Free Talk Live, are part of the Voluntary Virtues Network, which is a new thing. We kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday, but it's going to be ideally, eventually, 24 hours of libertarian commentary, broadcasting, podcasting, videocasting, commentary. So check us out, voluntaryvirtues.com. There's Voluntary Virtues on Facebook. There's, I believe, a Voluntary Virtues Twitter. If you want to learn more about me, I am Cathy Reisenwitz. I have a blog. It is Sex and the State. You can find it at CathyReisenwitz.com. I'm on Twitter at Cathy Reisenwitz. I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/Cathy Reisenwitz. That is CathyReisenwitz. Lauren, you're fantastic, beautiful, brilliant, and this has been an awesome show. Thank you for coming on.
Of course. Thank you, Cathy. You as well.
Bye, everybody.